I remember that summer morning as clearly as if it happened yesterday. The sun peeked through my bedroom blinds, painting stripes of gold across the walls. I was just 12 years old, still small enough to look up to my dad like he was the strongest man alive, but old enough to crave adventures of my own. That morning, I woke up to the sound of Dad packing bags in the kitchen. Pots clinked, zippers zipped, and I could hear him humming to himself, something he only did when he was really happy. "Ethan," he called from downstairs, his voice warm and steady. "Rise and shine, buddy. Today's the big day." I jumped out of bed, heart racing. For weeks he had been telling me about this trip, our very first camping adventure together. No siblings, no school, no work interruptions. Just me and him. I pulled on my favorite worn jeans, a soft red t-shirt, and my sneakers, and ran downstairs with a grin so wide my cheeks hurt. Dad stood in the kitchen, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark hair tucked under a baseball cap. His hands were busy organizing supplies, a rolled-up tent, a cooler, sleeping bags, and a backpack filled with trail mix and marshmallows. When he saw me, his face lit up with that signature smile of his, the kind that made me feel safe no matter where we were. "Ready for our big adventure, champ?" he asked. "More than ready," I said, grabbing my backpack. We loaded everything into Dad's old pickup truck. The leather seats smelled faintly of pine and coffee, and the dashboard rattled whenever he started the engine. It wasn't fancy, but to me it was perfect. As we pulled out of the driveway, Mom waved from the porch, reminding us to be careful and to take pictures. She looked proud, as if she knew this trip would be something special for both of us. The drive to the mountains took about 2 hours, winding roads framed by towering oaks and sparkling streams. Dad told stories the whole way, some about when he was a kid camping with my grandpa, others about funny things that had happened at his job. I laughed until my stomach hurt, and even when the radio crackled with static, we didn't need it. The sound of his voice and the open road were enough. When we finally pulled up to the campsite, I could hardly contain my excitement. The forest stretched endlessly around us, tall pines swaying gently in the summer breeze. Birds chirped high above, and the air smelled crisp and earthy. It felt like stepping into another world, far away from video games, homework, and the noise of town. Dad handed me one end of the tent, and together we worked to set it up. At first, I struggled with the poles, fumbling and laughing at my own clumsiness. Dad chuckled, kneeling beside me to guide my hands. "Don't worry, Ethan. Every camper starts somewhere. The trick is patience." With his help, the tent slowly took shape, and when we finally stood back to admire it, pride swelled in my chest. After setting up camp, we went exploring. The trail nearby wound through trees so tall they looked like skyscrapers. Shafts of light broke through the canopy, scattering golden beams across the forest floor. I tried to match Dad's long strides, but he slowed down for me, pointing out things along the way: deer tracks pressed into the mud, wildflowers blooming in clusters of yellow and purple, and the way the river curved gently around smooth stones. When we reached the riverbank, Dad knelt down and skimmed his hand across the surface of the water. "Cold," he said with a grin. Then, turning to me, he added, "Perfect for skipping rocks. You ever tried?" I shook my head, so he picked up a flat stone and showed me how to hold it just right. With a flick of his wrist, the rock danced across the surface, hopping 3 times before sinking. I tried again and again, my stones usually plopping straight into the water. But after a while, I managed one perfect skip. Dad threw his arm around my shoulder and cheered as if I'd just won a gold medal. That feeling, his pride, his excitement, meant more to me than anything else. By the time evening rolled in, the forest transformed. The air cooled, the sky glowed with pink and orange hues, and the sound of crickets began to rise. Dad built a small fire while I gathered sticks and pine cones, feeling useful in a way I never had before. Soon, the flames crackled, and the smell of burning wood filled the air. We roasted hot dogs and marshmallows, our laughter echoing through the quiet night. Sticky fingers and smoky clothes didn't matter. We sat shoulder to shoulder, telling stories and watching sparks float into the starry sky. At one point, Dad leaned back and pointed upward. "Look at that, Ethan," he whispered. "That's the Milky Way. Billions of stars, all up there shining. Makes you realize how big the world really is." I followed his gaze, my heart swelling with wonder. The stars stretched across the sky like glitter spilled across black velvet. I had never seen anything so breathtaking. Sitting there beside Dad, I felt small and big at the same time. Small compared to the universe, but big because I had someone who made me feel important. That night, we crawled into our sleeping bags inside the tent. The ground was uneven, and the air smelled of earth and campfire smoke. I expected it to be uncomfortable, but it wasn't. With Dad lying just a few feet away, his steady breathing lulling me to sleep, I felt completely safe. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the tent, and the sound of birds served as our alarm clock. Dad was already up, brewing coffee over the fire and frying bacon in a small pan. The sizzling smell drew me out of the tent, and I sat on a log beside him, my stomach growling. He handed me a plate with bacon and scrambled eggs, cooked a little too crispy but delicious all the same. The day was filled with more adventures, hiking up a steep trail, spotting a family of deer, and learning how to fish by the lake. I wasn't very good at casting the line, but Dad never made me feel bad. Every attempt was a chance to learn, and he celebrated every little success. When I finally caught a small fish, he grinned as if I had discovered buried treasure. As the trip went on, I realized it wasn't just about camping. It was about us. Every laugh, every lesson, every quiet moment watching the fire, it all stitched us closer together. Dad wasn't just my father. He was my teacher, my partner in adventure, my hero. When it was finally time to pack up and head home, I felt a pang of sadness. I didn't want it to end. As we drove back, I rested my head against the window, watching the trees blur past. Dad reached over and ruffled my hair. "We'll do this again, Ethan," he promised. "Many more trips, just you and me." And he kept that promise. But no matter how many times we went camping after that, nothing could ever match the magic of the first trip, the one where I learned not just how to pitch a tent or skip a rock, but how much love and joy could be found in the simple act of spending time with Dad. That trip is forever etched in my heart. It wasn't just a camping trip. It was the beginning of a lifetime of memories, the first page of a story I will carry with me always.